talking Joel Embiid. We're talking Daryl Morey. We're talking James Harden. And, of course, we're uncovering all of the latest 76ers dysfunction. You're watching 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. No matter where you are or how you're tuned in, we appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. Before we take a look at all of that, because there's a lot to unpack and a lot to dissect, make sure you go on down and hit that subscribe button. We're a little more than 300 people away from 12,000 subscribers, so if you're looking for year-round Sixers content that's insightful, informative, entertaining, and consistent, we have you covered right here on the show. So let's begin here with the latest around James Harden. It's the ongoing saga that never seems to dissipate or disappear, and the key word here is uncomfortable. Ramona Shelburne of ESPN said that James Harden plans to make the situation with Philadelphia as uncomfortable as possible. She said, "Somebody said to me yesterday, this is only the beginning. This is just the beginning of what James Harden is going to do to make life very uncomfortable for Philadelphia going into training camp." The phrase I kept hearing from sources was, "This is just the beginning." And so I think the Sixers have to ask themselves, what are we prepared for? How do we handle this? Is there any way that they can get through this and still have a productive season? Now, with Harden, what I don't get is that his teammates that he's had really throughout his career have loved him. And they've gone out of their way to show their appreciation and make it be known that they really like him. In the other hand, in the public eye, many fans dislike James Harden, and it's easy to see why. Lacks effort sometimes. When things don't go his way, he has awful body language. He's stopped trying in some really critical games. Joel Embiid, as we're about to talk about, has reached out to him time and time and time again all throughout this offseason saying, "I want you back here. We can chase a championship." And Harden is like, you know what? No. Daryl Morey broke some promise, maybe even a phantom promise, that he was going to give me a max deal, which isn't even legal, by the way. So there could be some legality concerns there. And just because he broke his promise to me, I'm going to call him a liar. I'm never going to play for him again, yet he's been the one who's kind of put me on throughout my career. So that's what I don't understand. And then in the public eye, James Harden going to make this as uncomfortable as possible? Be a professional. And let me ask you this question, James. Do you want to win an NBA championship? And if you want to win an NBA championship, that's one of the only things you have not accomplished in your career. Best place to do that is in Philadelphia right now as compared to any other destination that you can go to. So what are your thoughts on Harden? This will be our pinned comment. So make sure you go on down and let us know. Do you like him? Do you dislike him? Your opportunity to voice your opinions on the beard right now in the comments section. As for Joel Embiid's efforts, I talked about this to tee it up. Joel Embiid reportedly tried to get Harden to stay with Philadelphia multiple times this summer. And I think there are a couple of reasons why. Embiid feels the pressure. He's coming off an MVP campaign, yet he's continued to come up short in the playoffs. And I'd like to see him be a little bit more accountable. It seems as though he feels the pressure in trying to convince Harden to come back because he understands that Harden, as his running mate, does give Philadelphia a pretty good opportunity to win a championship. And with Harden on this team, Harden, Maxey, Embiid, Tobias Harris, new coach in Nick Nurse taking over for Glenn Rivers, Philadelphia can be competitive in the East. They can win the Eastern Conference. Joel Embiid knows that. And that's why, despite all of the bad moments we've seen Harden have and how much I dislike him, if he comes back, it improves the Sixers' chances of winning an NBA championship. Embiid saw Nikola Jokic win NBA MVP, and he knows that pressure is mounting if he wants to shed the label of being a playoff choke artist. And then number two, what stands out to me here is that if Harden doesn't want to come back, he doesn't want to win. And I've always questioned that about him because he'll go to a strip club instead of going to a practice. He'll give up when things get a little bit tense because he can't deal with the pressure cooker. And now you have an opportunity here to just get over yourself and get over this relationship with Daryl Morey, who again has helped you become a generational player in this league. And just because the Sixers seem to not be comfortable in giving you a long-term extension and a max deal, something that you haven't earned, and it doesn't look as though that investment would be worth it, you're going to go on this tirade here. He's acting like a petulant child, really is what it comes down to. It's very immature for a grown man out in China to say Daryl Morey is a liar and then double down on saying it twice. Will Embiid finish his career as a Sixer? We're going to get into some trade buzz on Embiid coming up here in just a bit. Y for yes or N for no. As for the Daryl Morey problem, the Philadelphia 76ers have a Daryl Morey problem. One, he came to Philadelphia with sky-high expectations. He hasn't delivered because this team hasn't become better since he came here to run basketball operations. Why? They haven't made it out of the second round of the playoffs. And two, a lot of players really respect James Harden on the Sixers roster elsewhere across the NBA. So a couple of problems here that aren't good. PJ Tucker has taken the side of James Harden. He shared that on his Instagram story. And then lastly, the Sixers' plan could be to shed the salary of Harden after this year and shed the salary of Tobias Harris. That would open up nearly $80 million in cap space for Philadelphia next offseason to build around Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. But if across the league Daryl Morey is seen in a negative light, will players want to come to Philadelphia? And then next offseason, we're talking about more swings and misses from this organization in particular, but also Daryl Morey because he's looked at as a negative figure who players don't want to play for. That is an issue. And if players don't want to play for Daryl Morey, should the Sixers consider firing him? What I would do if it got to that point, I would contact Bob Myers, former executive for the Golden State Warriors, who helped bring 4 championships to San Francisco in 9 years. Really good identifier of talent. That organization built a great culture and fostered a championship environment. I would give Bob Myers whatever the hell he wants to run basketball operations for Philadelphia, fire Daryl Morey, and move on with the general manager who everybody seems to respect, whereas Daryl Morey is kind of mocked sometimes with his approach to analytics, and now you have the one player who he's hitched his wagon to saying that he's a liar and never wants to play for him again. That ain't good, Bob. Does Joel Embiid want out? He took Philadelphia and processing out of his Twitter bio. Does that mean that he's frustrated with the current situation with the Sixers? If I'm Joel Embiid, human nature would play a role in this, and I would be a little bit frustrated over time. Here's Sean Kennedy, though, of ESPN on Embiid. Embiid is happy to be a Sixer. I don't think his removing of Philadelphia and the words processing from his Twitter profile is a precursor to something. I think this is Joel Troel. And as we know, he could be a troll on Twitter, and that's really where that Joel Troel nickname comes from. Now, right now, he might be content. He might be happy to be a Sixer. If this year goes sideways, and a year from now, we're talking about another second-round exit, we're talking about Embiid being injured once again in the playoffs, not getting enough help because throughout the playoffs in his career, he struggled to get consistent production from a co-star, then I think it gets to a point where Joel Embiid goes the Bradley Beal route, he goes the Damian Lillard route, and he demands a trade. Because at some point, he wants to maximize the remaining years that he has left in his prime, and the dysfunction becomes too much to bear for a player sometimes. And a fresh start really does reinvigorate their career. Now, there is a trade rumor out there of the Houston Rockets being interested in Embiid. This coming from The Athletic here. Another team to watch is Houston just because of the bond between Joel Embiid and Ime Udoka, maybe in the next year or so, because obviously if Joel stays this season and plays it out, that's one thing. But moving forward, I do think New York and Houston, the two teams to watch if Joel Embiid said, quote, I want to leave too. So again, if this Sixers year doesn't go according to plan, and it's an ugly end to the season, I think we could get to the point where Joel Embiid demands a trade, unless he's really happy with Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse in helping to lead this franchise. If you're still rocking with us, give us a real one. I understand it's really difficult to be a fan of this team. I get asked about it in this office. Producer Chip and I, we get made fun of for being Sixers fans here. And I love to bash the Dallas Cowboys because they're perennial choke artists. Sixers, Cowboys, big brands, big expectations. They always fail to reach them and always flame out in the playoffs. Now I kind of know what it's like to be a Dallas Cowboys fan, and that kind of sucks. Either way, we're going to continue to rock with the Sixers, though, and we're going to continue to give you great coverage here on the show.